Hello and welcome back to Beyond Insights, a podcast that takes you inside the world of business, accounting, and technology. Today, we're tackling a question that every leader and manager is asking at the moment. How do you make AI practical, and how do you make it usable for people actually running your business operations? The leaders who aren't necessarily coders and the teams on the shop floor. Hoping to help us tackle this question is today's guest, Derek Crager. Derek's the founder of Practical AI and the creator of Pocket Mentor, which happens to be the world's first voice-accessible Industry 4.0 customer support system. In today's episode, we'll explore how voice-first AI is reshaping industrial support, transforming knowledge transfer, and making AI a tool everyone can actually use. So Derek, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Such a pleasure. So, we've had a bit of a formal introduction into who you are, but we like to go a bit beyond that. And so what's something that the listeners today might not know or might surprise them about you?
Well, I'm in technology, right? AI, it seems like it's that cutting edge headline that's out there. But back in my early days, I actually got started turning wrenches, grease monkey of sorts, I guess, of the industrial variety. Came through skilled trade union apprenticeship, spent about 5 years in industrial construction. So I actually helped build automotive plants and pharmaceutical plants and things like that. And so my journey here has always been, I've always been adept at technology, but it's not always been my primary income driver.
Yeah, not at all. Wow, what a journey. And so I guess what then sparked your interest in AI?
Well, I look at it two different ways. One, AI is this new wave of information that's being given to us. It's similar much to before time of a lot of the listeners that are on here. But about 1989, the internet became public. And I had a go of technology back then. I actually had an exchange with Mark Andreessen back in the day before internet browsers were out there, and got a little bit of information. And I was selling online by 1990 on 5 different continents. So it's funny because I closed the business because I thought I had saturated my market in 1993. So this, I know, stick my head in the ground like an ostrich. This time around, I see AI. I'm looking ahead this time instead of looking down with my head in the sand. And AI it's information given to us in an easier and quicker manner. That's all the internet did. It gave us information in an easier, quicker manner. So with AI coming here today, it's got some acceptance, some barriers there on the human side, but I feel like I'm going to ride this wave out. Got my surfboard in hand.
Love to hear it. So one of the early adopters and someone who's probably got quite a unique perspective on technology generally, but also a mind for AI, if I can say that. So, lots of people listening, leaders in particular, will hear AI and immediately think this is just for tech teams. So how would you, based on the knowledge that you've accrued over time, explain AI in a way that's practical, but for non-technical leaders?
Well, I think that technology for technology's sake is a barrier and it gets in our way. But technology in its most useful state, we don't even know it exists. Kind of like when we walk into a supermarket and the door is open for us automatically. We once upon a time, we might think that was magic, but today it's just part of our lives. It makes our lives much easier. So the AI that I see as being practical is the one where we can communicate human to human, just like you and I are now through conversational. That to me is the singularity point in AI. It's not AI becoming self-aware. It's using AI as a companion and agent. And we've had these personal assistants, on mobile phones and on devices in our homes for, 10 years or so, but they're rudimentary. Today, I built what I believe is the first professional assistant. It's actually allows us to interface at work and make our job better and to have access to the just-in-time information that we need to get through our day. And that's the point here. You don't need to know how to, kicking back, program a VCR, that's
Yeah.
a big back in the day. If we can just talk to it. So, press a button or dial a phone number and talk to AI. We don't need keyboards. We don't need mass investment in technology just to connect, and it's live and it's human. That's the value that AI has given us today.
Amazing. I mean, I really love that answer. And so, I guess for the naysayers, so to speak, what do you think is a common misconception about the adoption of AI? And if you have one, maybe a suggestion as to how to, you know, go against that for any people who are still skeptical or uncertain about AI.
Well, the biggest barrier is the human barrier on adoption. And
Mm.
misconception is not really a pure misconception, but a lot of people believe that AI is here to replace jobs. It's going to put me on the breadline, so to speak. But it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to. I believe very much in what I call a human first AI, and that means AI is here to augment us, just like on the sci-fi and fantasy. You touch a button, whether it's on your chest or your wrist, or you just talk out loud, and you have a friend. When you're all by yourself, you're never by yourself. And that misconception is that we're all in on displacing humans, and that could happen, right? If that's the primary driver, that could happen. And honestly, for businesses, they're going to make money by replacing humans for the first 2 or 3 years. It's going to be a money driver because they're actually saving money. But what they lose, and this is the part that I really try to drive home on this human first AI, when we're replacing humans, we're replacing the box. AI can only work inside the box. And we've heard for a long time that the human factor is to be able to think outside the box. So I build a system that's a partnership. Inside the box, let's say I do all the, heavy lifting and redundant work, but let's augment and keep that human out there and support them in their time of need. That way we have the best of both worlds.
Amazing. I think a key takeaway from there for all of those listening is that word augment, not necessarily replace, just help us out in the current day-to-day activities that we're doing. Fantastic. And so I guess in your experience, where do you find that non-technical teams, we're now speaking more about your experiences of AI and technology generally, where do you think non-technical teams struggle most when they're trying to use AI tools?
I think it's the interface. It's the interface is the key. If in a typical company scenario, employer employee, the employee truly wants to build for the company. The employee, and I know I felt this way. I want to be productive. I want to do something good. I want to build with the team that's out there, but the company has firewalls up, Wi-Fi access, passwords. Can we adopt this technology? Well, we're going to use a similar technology. Well, let's do it this way. And then by the time you jump through all those barriers and hoops, you get out of sync, you get out of place, you lose that inertia,
Yeah.
and then you don't finish what you wanted to finish. So it becomes this barrier that we shy away from, kind of like touching a hot stove for the first time. We don't really want to do it again because of the pain of going through the process. And that's really where I see the barrier now is that when we try to use it, we get our hands slapped and say, no, 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 and just do it the old hard way. And that's key right there. So if we can push the voice first, and
Yeah.
it's just a telephone call, it really bypasses privacy concerns. Not necessarily bypasses, I guess it really voids privacy concerns because nobody's going to connect to a telephone. And the most they could get, they're not going to get company data. They're just going to be able to access a helping friend.
Yeah.
Phone a friend in its magnitude and glory.
Nice. So it sounds to me like a case of afraid of the accessibility of sort of AI. So I guess asking you from an accessibility point of view, so making AI usable without those logins, without technical training, without those apps, which might be a bit scary to some people, why is it so important, in your opinion, for things to be more accessible to non-technical AI adopters, so to speak?
Well, we see it economically. We have Google. You go to google.com. Google removed all the barriers. There's a box there. We type in it and we hit enter. And they just made it so simple. So it's a driving force. The more barriers are removed, the less friction there is to overcome, the more productive we are as humans. And I spent time at Amazon. I helped build their highest rated employee training program in company history. And I owe that to my way of thinking in that. But if we go back to early Amazon, Jeff Bezos said, "Hey, create me a shopping cart where people can just click once and buy."
Mhm.
And the developer said, "No, it's got to be 14 clicks." And he said, "No, no, 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 one." And they came back at 8 clicks, and then 4 clicks and 2 clicks until it got to one. And just the barrier from 2 clicks to 1 click shopping economically, and that's where we drive success, is to see what people actually spend their money on, invest their time in. And that helped propel Amazon to be the largest retailer in the world. And again, it wasn't because they sold better or they had better customer service. You hear lots of gripes about customer service at Amazon, but it was just the fact they removed so many barriers that they magnified their productivity and their service and deliverability. And that's what we can do to every company that's out there, every employee relationship, every customer, client, and employer relationship. It's that simple. If we remove the barriers, we can all grow.
Wow. So I guess in that case, let's move on to Pocket Mentor. Could you tell us a bit about what it is, first of all, and then also how voice first AI can help technical and non-technical users alike in real time?
Yeah, absolutely. Pocket Mentor is just that. It's use a telephone in your pocket. It's equipment that we already have. No big capital expenditures that a company has to make or an individual has to make. Uh, and I believe in that simplicity, and I followed that philosophy. So there's 3 ways you can access Pocket Mentor on your telephone. One, dial a phone number, just like I'm dialing your house to seeing, hey, you want to go fishing this weekend, or go to the game. The other type is, you scan a QR code that dials a phone number for you. And so that bypasses any need for Wi-Fi, any network. It's not an app. It's just there and available, just like, your best friend. You tap you put them on speed dial favorites. So that's the biggest part right there. Is there's no additional expense, no barriers to utilize. It's just there. And the way we use AI is really as an interpreter. It's kind of like a go-between from in a company situation, from the SOP, the procedures, manuals, etc., to the human. And this is where voice is important, because if I'm reading a manual, it could be a standard operating procedure, SOP. It could be an operations manual, a maintenance manual. If I'm reading it, I don't get context. I get black and white letters that were written probably 10 years earlier that don't apply to the situation that I'm in. I need to be able to soundboard with somebody, to think, and throw some ideas on the wall. And you tell me which ideas suck and which ideas I should follow through on. But just the fact that I can iterate back and forth, just like you and I are now. That's the power of voice. It's conversational. Our voices come through. They sound human. They are human. They're friendly. They are forever patient. Which, if you ever call a manager up or a supervisor in the middle of the night, they're not always the happiest person in the world to hear you on the phone, right? So that's the power of voice right there. So it's simple. There's no huge investment. And it's available, and it takes down those barriers, and it takes somebody who feels like they're lost and alone. It puts them in a realm where they always have support at their fingertips.
Wow. Derek, I'm sold. I'm sold. You've got me hook, line, and sinker.
This podcast is brought to you by Sift Analytics. Sift Analytics is an interactive and collaborative financial reporting tool that helps you generate beautiful reports, forecasts, and consolidations in just a few clicks. Sift helps you increase revenue, reduce costs, save time, and look professional. It is also enhanced by AI-powered insights that help you go from data to decisions in no time. Want to find out more? Visit our website at siftanalytics.com to start a 14-day free trial today.
I guess for the listeners today, could you maybe give us one or two examples of, teams or leaders where you've seen measurable improvements using voice AI?
Well, one is the HR realm. I know HR, there's some DEI that was, had headlines for about 5 years, and then it's kind of been put to the wayside because companies didn't see any return on investment, which is sad. Because there is no direct return on investment, but long term, it's an investment in your employees. So this is one part where I actually taught, classes that had DEI labels in them, but I always believe in the philosophy, if we just treat everybody like they want to be treated, I call it the platinum rule, then we don't need special exemptions or special how-to manuals on how to treat this letter or this name, this box, this bucket or category. So that's the basis for that. So there is definitely the availability to scale an HR support system for employees. And so it treats neurodivergent people and neurotypical the same. It has the same value for both. It tunes into that person's brain pattern and gives them the information when they need it. So there's the HR support. There's checking in and make sure that our employees are doing well. There's onboarding. My primary driver at Amazon was onboarding employees, and I onboarded my program 35,000 in 1 year. And so there has to be a pattern that works. And so onboarding employees, I made sure that all the employees had the information that they needed when they needed it. And that's the key. So if you can just call up a friend and say, hey, what do I need? How do I do this? Is it the third room or the fourth room? Is the door unlocked? How do I change the toner in this printer? So that's an example of kind of like office work or onboarding for any company or employee. On the flip side, let's go to operations, manufacturing, industrial application. And I told you I came, from boots on the ground, got my hands dirty, and I went from that role to engineering to eventually talent development and learning augmentation. So in that realm, we also have these skilled tradespeople that are mechanically inclined, electromechanically inclined, and they need these skill sets to go out there and fix and repair operations to keep them productive. If the lines are productive, then everybody makes money, employees make money, company makes money, everybody's good. But what happens, let's say it's 2 a.m. Saturday morning on this weekend shift, and the least senior person is on call and there's nobody to help them. So essentially they're babysitters. They hear line 2 is down, and line 2 is, makes $100,000 an hour for the company, but it's down. So that means it's costing them $100,000 an hour in downtime. So the person is here and they might have an idea on where to start, but they're kind of like, they're not sure. They're safety trained. They know how to be safe, but how do I diagnose this variable frequency drive on this 480 volt 3-phase motor? And so they think it's here or is it there? So they can literally tap a button. I stole this from Staples, but it's the industrial easy button. So they can press that easy button. They call Pocket Mentor, say, hi, I'm Mike from Pocket Mentor. And, how can I help you today? And it's like, hey, Mike, I've got this PowerFlex 525 VFD. It's got an error code of F03. So can you help me diagnose this? Yeah, sure. That error code is, it's a short, it's a lost, power line, etc. So on the skilled trade side, that and operational manufacturing, that's where it would come in handy for that person. They have a friend, and the neat thing about voice, this is an added feature or benefit, is that it leaves the user hands-free and eyes-free. That means, we got these earbuds in here,
Yeah.
and I go about my work, right? I can juggle, I can throw darts, I can turn a wrench, I can type on a keyboard, I can, replace the coffee in the coffee maker in the break room, maybe because it's my turn. But because I'm eyes free and hands free, it allows me to do anything in the world. And it's just like I have you in my ear, said, "Hey, you've done this before. Can you just talk me through it?" And that's the balance of it.
Wow. And I mean, I'm curious, where is the information which is being fed into the actual AI before it gives the answers to you? Where is it picking up that information from? I imagine similar to different types of AI, it's always iterating and learning more, but how mechanically, I don't know if that's the right word, is it picking up information which it then feeds to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So I will say that it's anybody that's privacy and security conscious. It meets all enterprise level security and privacy. And unlike the wild, like if somebody's, whether that's voice or typing on ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity, etc., you hear a lot of hallucinations. So that's what drives that question: is how do we know it's good information? And it's good information because we take advantage of that box. Each organization that we work with, the SOPs, the manuals, whether it's white collar or blue collar, where the people are getting greasy and dirty, and they have operations manuals and frontline manuals and maintenance manuals, and or maybe it's just how to onboard on day one, and it's how to apply our leadership principles, that sort of thing. Um, it's there, it's available, but that knowledge comes from the organization. So what we do, we provide, and Pocket Mentor provides a new interface, a voice interface for information that is existing. We don't create more. We don't open the doors and let it grab it out on the internet to make up answers. It's aligned and tuned directly on the information from that company, on that specific procedure, on that specific onboarding process, on that specific diagnostic, and nowhere else. So that contains it all. So the answers that you get when using Pocket Mentor are the right answers, and they're helpful answers.
Wow. And so how would you sort of ensure adoption across teams who may still be a bit skeptical or uncomfortable with new tech? I mean, you've explained very well, in my opinion, how exactly the information comes in and how it would be presented to us. But for those still skeptical or uncomfortable, how do you ensure adoption across teams of a Pocket Mentor type?
Yeah, call me up. Let's get a small pilot. It's the way we taste anything. If we're trying a new ice cream, we don't, shovel a half gallon in our mouth right away. We take a little taste, and that's the same way with technology. The barrier for adoption is always human. We call it change management. It's a psychological term. If the way is to make sure that you're providing answers to questions of everybody that is affected by the change. And this is the same with any project, any new expansion, any adoption. It could be a change in hours. It doesn't matter, but it's dealing with the human condition and making sure that they have the answers that they need. That's the best way we make change and grow as human society.
Nice. And so say now, the teams have started to adopt Pocket Mentor. What advice would you give to the leaders who are looking to implement AI, but worry about overwhelming the teams who are then going to be making use of it as well?
Well, I think it's just the opposite, because the leaders right now are the ones that are being stressed, whether it's frontline worker in an industrial or manufacturing setting, or if it's a white collar office environment, developers, programmers, etc. When employees come in and they don't know how to do something, the first person they go to is who? their manager, right? Their supervisor. So what happens, especially when a manager has more than one or two employees underneath them, sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 20. At Amazon, some of the managers had 80 to 100 employees that they had to keep track of. So in this realm, it's a way to scale the answers to the individual and make it available to the individual in real time. And all of a sudden, there's a return of productivity to the leadership, to the management, to the supervisors, to the continuous improvement team who is usually, fixing things instead of growing and iterating for the better. So that's my response, is that it's actually a way to triage your current problems and assign those answers out, because 80% of all answers are repetitive. It's the same answer you're given, just to a different person. So why not automate that? Let your people access it when they need it without coming to you. It saves face, and it removes that fear of being judged from the employee coming up and saying, hey, I don't know how to do something. So that's the benefit right there, is that saving face really saves, it increases safety, and it increases productivity, because now they can just go do rather than waiting in the unknown and guessing.
Right. So we've mentioned words there like, fix and improve and productivity. How can organizations actually measure whether AI tools are really empowering their non-technical teams, or if they're creating extra work?
Well, I would say stay away from trying to find AI specific KPIs. Look at what you're trying to solve. And sometimes, AI is not the answer. You want to go with the most direct and efficient solution, whatever that is. So don't force AI upon your team just because you want to adopt AI. Find out what you're measuring, where the opportunity is, and just keep tracking those. And just keep AI as a tool in your toolbox. So if there's downtime at a manufacturing facility, is that downtime at 50%? 55%, 42%. Once you adopt a new tool, and in this case, let's throw Pocket Mentor in there, just keep tracking it. Implementation on day one. What's day 30 look like? Day 60, day 90, and look for your trends. And if it's helping, by all means, dig in, go deep and expand. If it's not helping, well, do some evaluation why it is or it isn't helping, and then maybe implement a different solution, whatever that is. And that's the same case for any new tool that we bring in.
Amazing. Amazing. So, towards the end of these podcasts, we'll usually end with a bit of a rapid fire question. So, Derek, don't think too much. First thing that comes to your head when I say, what's one piece of software that you can't live without?
Right now, I say ChatGPT, the project mode.
Nice. And I'm very curious about this one. What's the best book you've read recently? Or if you are a podcast listener, what's the best podcast you've listened to?
Oh my gosh, I'm not going to start judging podcasts, brother. My favorite book is The Journeyer by Gary Jennings, and it's actually a story that takes place a long time ago. It's kind of like a dramatization of actual fact. But The Journeyer by Gary Jennings, it really helps open my mind on seeking knowledge.
Okay, The Journey. I'll have to make a note of that one for sure. And then I guess, what's the most valuable lesson you've learned about building a business? This will really be something that people are keen to hear on.
You can't do it alone. You got to have partners. You got to have help. You have to understand your missing link, and make sure and cover that with additional skill sets.
And then lastly, if there's one thing that you want listeners to take away from today's podcast, what would it be?
I would say don't be afraid of AI. Understand that there are ways to implement AI that don't cost a bunch of capital expenditures. If adopting AI means that you have to spend millions of dollars and you have to wait for a year for it to pay off, there's easier ways about it. A trial product like Pocket Mentor, you give a call, you have an answer, and it really can be that simple.
Amazing. Listen, Derek, that was fantastic. That was a fantastic interview. I'm so happy to have spoken to you today. I really hope that people have taken on quite a bit of knowledge based on what you've explained to us this afternoon. And thank you for joining us on Beyond Insights.
Well, thank you. You do some great work. So I encourage all the listeners to reach out and invite a friend over to your podcast.
Lovely. Thanks, Derek.
Thanks for tuning in to the Beyond Insights podcast. Please like and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to right now. And please share with any of your colleagues or friends or family members that you think might benefit from listening to this podcast. That's all from us. Until next time, see you then.